Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money channel. So this was just brought to my attention yesterday by Satirius here on Twitter, just mentioning that he has noticed that I have an imposter here on Twitter, Working Money with an INIG over here, who has only 131 followers. I tried to block him. I don't know if he's already been blocked. I could not find this scumbag's name here when I searched Twitter. So if you guys notice this guy on Twitter, please do report him because this is clearly a scam, guys. This is not me. I do like to bring this up every now and then. I was hoping that all the imposters were getting tired out of trying to pretend to be me. Clearly, it's not the case. So anyway, if you guys do come across this guy, please do report him. Another kind of public service announcement here that I wanted to mention was this from the Wrath of Kahneman. Guys, this is also a scam, so be careful about this. There is a devious phishing scheme from this site. When it loads, the URL comes up and it looks like it's Ripple's website, but it is not Ripple's website. So I'm just going to show you guys when we click on this. It looks innocently enough like Ripple's Insights blog, but if you look up here, you can see there's a little accent above the E here, so it's ripple.com with that accent above that E. So this is a phishing website. Be careful, guys. And if you scroll down here, they're asking to register to put your info into the website. Again, this is a sophisticated scam. They're trying to phish to get your information, so just be mindful of that. Unfortunately, there's no way to report this. But again, just a public service announcement for all of you guys in the XRP community. I'm going to shut that down. Thanks so much to the Wrath of Kahneman, obviously, for bringing that to our attention. And another one here from the Wrath of Kahneman with regards to Ripple and the Korean market. So Korea is very, very excited and eager to adopt RippleNet. However, here's some statements from Rahul Advani. He's the head of APAC policy, and this is what he said in a conference yesterday. So this is in Korean, so let me just translate that here. Ripple will enter the Korean market in earnest this year. The goal is to end the SEC lawsuit as soon as possible. So even in Korea, even though XRP is already considered a currency in Korea, they are still a little apprehensive to adopt XRP and RippleNet in full force. And so, this begs the question, are there other countries, even though, XRP could be deemed safe and ready to go, greenlit in other countries, could there be other countries that are also being apprehensive at this moment in time just because of, for a multitude of reasons? It could be that they do a lot of business with the United States and therefore do not necessarily need to adopt RippleNet at this point in time. Maybe they are looking for that clarity in the US before they really kind of go full-fledged on this. Well, here's the sentiment in Korea. Ripple's XRP will enter the Korean market in earnest within this year. Rahul Advani, head of Ripple's Asia-Pacific policy, said Ripple is very interested in the Korean market at the Future of Blockchain and Digital Assets in Korea conference held on the morning of the 27th. It is also a level to talk about Korean regulations before Ripple enters the market, he said. This is the official plan to enter the Korean market within this year. He pointed out that narrowing the scope of digital assets should be top priority in relation to Korean cryptocurrency regulations. I know that the scope of digital assets is fairly broad in Korea, he said. The litigation between the SEC and Ripple over the securities property of XRP is working to resolve it as quickly as possible. I'm sorry, guys, for the translation here. It's translated from Korean, so it might the grammar might be a little off. But they're looking to resolve it as quickly as possible. I think the lawsuit between the SEC and Ripple is not just affecting Ripple, but affecting the entire industry, Advani said. He added that the lawsuit with the SEC did not affect the adoption of Ripple's on-demand liquidity. ODL is a Ripple remittance system developed by integrating Ripple's existing products, XCurrent, XRapid, XVia. The U.S. is slow to adopt cryptocurrency regulations compared to other countries, said Advani. But he's saying there is a timeline for Korea, and it's going to happen within the year. Regarding Ripple's cryptocurrency exchange service Liquidity Hub, it has been revealed that there are no plans to launch this in Korea, at least not yet. The Liquidity Hub is a pilot project developed and tested by Ripple. There are no plans to launch it in Korea yet. So although they are going to adopt RippleNet in some capacity, no plans for the Liquidity Hub, at least not yet. Sounds as though they are looking to get that regulatory clarity before they finally adopt Ripple in a much more meaningful capacity. So anyway, that's interesting news. Wanted to thank the Wrath of Kahneman for posting that. And speaking of regulatory clarity, guess who just stepped down from their post? The Inspector General of the SEC, U.S. Securities Regulators watchdog, to retire in early May. So within a week or two, the SEC Commissioner's Inspector General will retire in just over a week after leading the agency's watchdog office for 9 years, the SEC said in a statement on Wednesday. Carl Hoker, His retirement follows more than 4 decades in the federal government and comes months after Reuters reported he had been the subject of a years-long government investigation that sustained allegations of serious misconduct against him. Wow, the layers of the onion keep unpeeling. The SEC, which made no mention of Reuters reporting on the investigation, suspended Hoker without pay for 7 days in 2020 under its previous Republican leadership. The government investigation was led from 2017 to 2019. Anyway, guys, the details are all here. The main point, though, Carl Hoker stepping down, and clearly there has been some shady business behind closed doors throughout his career at the SEC. So this is interesting to note, considering what I'm about to show you next. Okay, first I wanted to bring this up, though, from Stefan Hubert. What makes XRP unique? Now, if you guys surf over there to CoinMarketCap every now and then to check out cryptocurrency prices and, maybe where they rank in the cryptocurrency market, you'll notice if you click on some of these coins like Bitcoin, they've revamped their whole site recently, and by recently I mean within the last several months. In a lot of these cases, they make mention of why a cryptocurrency is unique. And so just clicking on Bitcoin here, it's the first cryptocurrency. Its most unique advantages come from the fact that it was the very first cryptocurrency to appear on the market. And so they have some factoids here with regards to these cryptos, like if I click on Solana, let's just take a look at Solana real quick here. Just going down here. Why is Solana unique? Well, it's one of the essential innovations Solana brings to the table is the proof of history consensus developed by Anatoly Yakovenko. This concept allows for greater scalability of the protocol, which in turn boosts usability. And so there's a whole section here on why this cryptocurrency in particular is unique. Funny though, because what Stefan Hubert points out here is what makes XRP unique. According to CoinMarketCap, absolutely nothing. When in fact, of all the things that makes XRP unique, the most obvious is there is no other project against which there is such a targeted, coordinated, sophisticated, negative campaign against them. So he's just bringing up some examples here of other cryptocurrencies in the space, what makes them unique, and yet, there is nothing on the XRP page. If I were to click on the XRP cryptocurrency, here, let me just go back and do that real quickly. There is nothing to insinuate that XRP is unique whatsoever. So they just decided to omit that section completely for XRP. Here's the joke, though. Okay, when you look up XLM, which is, pretty much the same thing in a lot of ways. Stellar's XLM, go down here. What makes Stellar's XLM unique? Well, there's a section here about Stellar and why that's a unique cryptocurrency. However, nothing on the XRP page to denote any unique qualities of the XRP cryptocurrency whatsoever. So, is it a coordinated attack? Why would they just so blatantly leave this out? El Diablo Dictator Know-It-All here saying, yep, they never target XLM, XDC, or HBAR, which are all superior to Bitcoin and Ethereum, for example. And so Martin Kelly here also mentioning also nothing like dropping a bit of centralized misinformation into the mix as well. So just making note of this, in contrast to Ethereum, the XRP ledger does not use a proof of work consensus mechanism. It also does not work with a proof of stake consensus mechanism like many of its rivals. Instead, it uses the XRP ledger consensus protocol, which is a more centralized and efficient solution to reduce transaction finality time and transaction costs. So throwing a bit of shade towards XRP's way, which begs the question, I know a lot of us have been questioning this over the last several months now. Is it a coordinated attack? Well, did you guys hear what Greg Kidd had to say in an interview? This interview brought to us courtesy of Digital Asset Buy here on Twitter. Kind of lengthy, but I am going to break it up for you guys. We're going to talk a little bit about this. Here it is.
As I'm sure a lot of you already know, right before the Christmas holiday, the SEC launched its lawsuit against Ripple, essentially saying that XRP was a security and Ripple had been involved in selling unregistered securities for the past 8 years. Greg, I know you have some very strong opinions on this. Why don't we start with your hot take?
Well, first off, I'm an ex-regulator myself. I work for the Federal Reserve at the Board of Governors in the payments group. And just my observation is, and again, I'm not a regulator now, but that just wasn't the way we did things at the Fed.
Okay, let me just start off by saying, how many of you guys knew that Greg Kidd was a regulator? I didn't know that. So I gotta say, Greg Kidd is probably one of the better people to ask about this Ripple SEC lawsuit, considering he has regulator experience, worked at the Fed, also worked at Ripple as well. Anyway, I don't want to keep interrupting. Listen to this.
You didn't launch litigation on the last day before the commissioner of your organization resigned, just going in, especially going into like a new administration. I mean, Ripple's been around for 8 years. There's been a long time to set clear rules, and then you could have arguments or discussions over what behaviors need to change to meet the rules. But to actually just file an enforcement action out of the blue on the day that you resign, so you're not around to actually take the heat for the consequences of what you've done, and then you just sail off into the holidays and a new administration. That's kind of an unprecedented situation. The question is, what was the reason after 8 years that required an urgent enforcement action just on the last day of under a particular leadership? And so this is a highly unusual situation, just to start with, in terms of the conduct of the SEC, independent of the substantive issues of the case. So it does have me scratching my head as to like, why this timing, why in this manner, and then we can just climb down into the specifics of the actual case.
So even Greg Kidd here scratching his head. It doesn't make sense to him why Jay Clayton would have done what he did back in December of 2020, literally the day before he stepped down as lead commissioner at the SEC. Okay, this is coming not only just from somebody who used to work at Ripple, but also a former regulator at the federal level.
What's known as the Howie Test, which is the test for whether something is a security or is a currency. And really, from my point of view, it comes down to whether an organization like the SEC thinks that people out there can't tell the difference between investing in a gold mine, which has its own stock, which truly is a security, versus gold, which is pretty clearly not a security. And
okay, I'm going to stop the clip there for a sec. He goes into the Howie Test, and it kind of describes already what we know about the Howie Test in relation to XRP. I'm just going to fast forward through here. And it's just in around here. Guys, I will link this in the description if you're interested in watching the full interview. But I'm going to continue it from here, the 4-minute mark. Listen to this.
Well, I mean, speaking of that question, what do you think the goal of the SEC was, right? Because generally speaking, they're there to make sure regulations are followed. They're there to make sure the rules are followed. And ultimately, their responsibility is to protect the consumer. So what do you think they were trying to get out of this particular case, especially in the context of, like you said, dropping it right before the holidays and right before this administration is moving on?
Well, to me, this feels like a turf battle. Again, I come from the U.S. regulatory industry, and there's always a question of like, what does the Fed do versus the OCC versus state regulators? And in this case, the question is, who gets to be the boss of cryptocurrency? Is it FinCEN? Is it the IRS? Is it like some other federal regulator? Or in this case, the SEC is saying like we want to be the boss of crypto. Yet we don't want to like lay out like clear rules and whatnot. But this clearly is a chance for them to say, we get to have a big say about how crypto works. Yet at the same time, we don't have the responsibility for putting out a clear set of rules, even though it's been 8 years. And they could clarify, like, why is Ripple, in their mind, an investment contract, but Ethereum or Bitcoin is not, and also give guidance to all the other companies that are arguably in the same position as Ripple. It could be a Filecoin or a Stellar, Tether, Brave. I mean, those are all companies where there was a stock by the founding company, and then tokens have been issued, and those tokens have been sold to members of the public and are held broadly, not just by accredited investors. And so, the ironic thing here is if you read what the mission is of the SEC, it's to protect investors, to maintain fair, orderly, and efficient markets, and facilitate capital formation. If you go through each of those 5 things, protecting investors, is this fair? Is this orderly? Is this efficient? Does this promote capital formation? And in every one of those checkboxes, this action achieves exactly the opposite outcome. Investors have been harmed. This certainly isn't fair because you can't understand why Ripple and not Tether or not like Stellar, not like any of those other lists or Bitcoin or Ether. You're not making clear what the distinctions are. It is certainly not efficient or orderly. I mean, there's been chaos in the marketplaces. Folks don't know whether to list or delist. There's problems with liquidities. Loans are being called. I mean, if you wanted to create a situation that was a parallel to like having like Lehman Brothers go down without clear and orderly wind down, I can't think how you could create more chaos in the marketplaces than just to file an enforcement action with no context, on the last day of, the commissioner's leadership of the SEC.
Okay, and the clip ends there. So if you heard what Greg Kidd said there, he said this is kind of equivalent to, in the banking sector, if Lehman Brothers just announced something negative and then didn't give any context toward it. That is what's happening right now in the cryptocurrency industry with the Ripple SEC lawsuit. At the beginning of that question, he also mentioned that he does also think it is a turf war, a turf battle between the SEC, the CFTC, FinCEN. Who is responsible for regulating cryptocurrencies? Well, they're all trying to come to a conclusion as to what organization should be responsible for regulating cryptocurrencies, and I guess this is where we're at today. There is still no clear-cut answer. Also, I did want to mention, I did cut it out, I did not play this part of the clip, but Greg Kidd did state in this interview here that he is invested in Ripple and he also holds XRP. So it was when he was talking about the Howie Test and investment contract. He did mention that, he knows the difference between XRP and Ripple. He owns part of the company Ripple and he's also invested in XRP. He does hold XRP. So just as a little side note there, but just going back to that point, who is responsible for regulating cryptocurrencies? It's a turf war, kind of like drug gangs. They pick a corner, they defend their corner, and hey, if you're going to infringe on our territory, boom, you're going to get punished. And it's funny he mentions that because I just saw this guy's, this was just from a couple of hours ago now, U.S. Representative Patrick McHenry recently criticized both the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC, and the SEC over their handling of regulations around digital assets. So directly speaking to exactly what Greg Kidd was saying, McHenry cited the need for a special, separate entity to regulate virtual assets. McHenry's comments come amid growing scrutiny of the SEC and other U.S. regulators in their alleged mishandling of the growing crypto market. To date, the United States lacks any comprehensive federal laws covering crypto. And so in an interview, McHenry mentioned that we need to define digital assets properly. He believes that cryptocurrency is neither a commodity nor a security, and he presents Bitcoin as the embodiment of it. McHenry suggests that evolving digital asset industry needs a separate regulatory body other than the SEC and the CFTC. However, he asserts that it's completely the role of Congress to evaluate a definition of digital assets. It is important to do so, as there is no federal clarity over it for now, while there is no specific regulatory body to keep an eye on it. So this is unfortunately the regulatory environment that we are working through. Hopefully we will come to a conclusion soon. Greg Kidd obviously adding his 2 cents to the mix. Somebody who is not only an ex-federal regulator, also owns a part of Ripple and does hold XRP. So that to me sounds like he's a great authority on this subject matter, but that's just my opinion. I want to hear what you guys think. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.